I went to my first ever Pokemon VGC tournament, and I won the entire thing. Nearly. Here's how. Regen 2024 was a Smash tournament at the heart of Leicester. It was the first major in I don't know how many years, Albion whatever it was, but of course there was a more interesting competition to be at hand. When scrolling down the Start GG page for this 700-person Smash tournament, I saw that there was a Pokemon Side Bracket, and I knew I simply had to sign up. However, unfortunately, I was too late to actually join the bracket, so I was left to wallow as a lonely Smash player. However, the great Arceus above bestowed upon me a wonderful gift. One player dropped out of the bracket, meaning I was able to take their place, exactly 1 week before the tournament was going to start. Incredible. I can finally see if I'm actually any good at this game, or if my 1100 rank on Pokemon Showdown is not only a reflection of my lack of skill, but also my lack of moral worth. But hold on, I'm playing in my first ever VGC tournament in exactly 1 week, and I don't even have a team yet. So, I got to crafting. This is a Regulation G tournament, which, if you don't know, allows for one restricted Pokemon. These are legendaries, super overpowered, miles above the rest of the competition. The Scarlet and Violet legendaries, like Miraidon, and maybe that other one. The past legendaries like Kyogre and Groudon. The range of Pokemon is absolutely terrifying. So, who out of these unbelievably broken Pokemon am I going to choose to lead my team to greatness? I started with Weezing. Weezing, whilst fitting into my favourite category of Pokemon, called Funny Little Guys, isn't really a legendary. At least not in typing, stats, move pool. But there is undeniably a legendary in spirit. With its ability neutralizing gas, it can turn off any other ability in the game. Well, most other abilities, we'll get to that later. You want to try and intimidate my Pokemon? Nope, too bad, there's a cherry in the way. You want to try and set up some weather? No, too bad, there's some gas covering you. Oh, you're Dondozo and Tatsugiri and you want to combine to make some weird fishy Voltron? Too bad, stay away from each other. Nice try. To add to this general vibe of pain and destruction that I love inflicting on my opponents so much, I gave Weezing a pretty standard set of Sludge Bomb, Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, and Protect. I gave Weezing the Citrus Berry item to try and live for as long as possible, and just to make it a bit of a nuisance whenever on the field. The problem with Weezing is since it doesn't have that amazing stats outside of its bulk, it needs something to do while on there. So Taunt can shut down support Pokemon, in particular Amoonguss, and Will-O-Wisp can slow down these bulky physical attackers that can be a lot of problems in the format. Wolfie VGC fans may be familiar with this set, but of course it's because he stole it from me. It was my idea. No one else's. For reasons that I can only put down to bad game design, unfortunately my Weezing, lovingly named Cherry Bomb, is not enough alone for me to win this tournament. So, I have to start building a team around them. I've started off with a pretty unconventional choice. What weird, unconventional Pokemon am I going to go to next to baffle my opponents, to spook them, to terrify them, to confuse and befuddle them? Yeah, it's the same joke. I chose Calyrex Shadow. I chose Calyrex Shadow. It's really, look at its stats. Of course I chose Calyrex Shadow. Calyrex Shadow, really good stats, really good ability, and let's not forget, of course, as well, its signature move, Astral Barrage, is a 120 base power Ghost-type move that hits both opponents and has a 100% chance of hitting. It's not very fair, to say the least. Its ability, as one, is quite unique in this game, as it is actually two abilities. It combines Pressure, which stops opponent Pokemon from consuming berries. Nice, not amazing. With, I don't know what it's called, but its ability which essentially every time it takes a kill, it gains a special attack boost. Really, really strong for such a powerful Pokemon. Whilst most Cali Shadows would run max speed and max attack, and just pray that they win the speed tie coin toss, I want to play differently. My Calyrex Shadow is bulky as hell. Of course I gave it Astral Barrage, but I also chose to go with Draining Kiss to give it some recovery, Nasty Plot to double my special attack in a single move, and Protect to keep myself alive. I went for a Terra type of Fairy to give me a damage boost on Draining Kiss. For its item, I chose to give it a Covert Cloak so that I could safely Terrastallize without fear of Fake Out, and voila! this is my masterpiece. The star of my team, or I should say the second star of my team, the sidekick, the Robin to Weezing's Batman, was ready to go. Once I put all this work in, I realised Calyrex Shadow's ability as one is so powerful, giving it that special attack boost, and yet I have the chance of losing it to Weezing. This pairing just isn't really going to work. However, no! That's right, Calyrex Shadow simply says no. For some reason that I don't understand, as one doesn't apply to neutralizing gas. It still works. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I don't think Game Freak knows. The only one who knows is that sick, twisted horse and weird, big-headed man sitting on top of it. What are they planning? What are they thinking of? I don't know. For a reason far beyond what we mortals can understand, for some reason, As1 is immune to neutralizing gas, meaning that my Weezing can shut down my opponent's legendary Pokemon's abilities, but my legendary still gets to do exactly what it wants. And that is what we call fun. For me. For them, it's less important. That's the most unique mon on my team chosen, my most powerful mon on my team chosen, so now it's time to build out the rest of the team. I really want to prioritize getting Nasty Plot set up on my Calyrex Shadow. This is going to be my most important way to take games. It is going to be my win con in a lot of situations, so I need to focus on getting myself into that situation. So naturally, Fake Out is a no-brainer. If you don't know, Fake Out is a priority move that almost always goes first. It hits the Pokemon and stops them from moving this turn. Perfect to try and get a setup off. This is why I decided to go with 2 different Fake Out users. So I went for the 2 best ones, Rillaboom and Incineroar. Incineroar gives me a bulky Pokemon who can support with Intimidate and Parting Shot to lower my opponent's offensive stats. It also gives me some much needed Dark type coverage against all the Ghost types running around. Rillaboom, on the other hand, gives me a much needed way to stop Psychic Terrain, a popular strategy known as Psy Spam, which I really struggle against. Rillaboom, when it switches in, sets up the Grassy Terrain. This gives all my Pokemon a little bit of passive healing, which for Calyrex Shadow in particular is very nice. Rillaboom also can do big damage with Wood Hammer, get some priority damage with Grassy Glide, and switch themselves out to reposition myself with U-Turn. My team at the moment is very, very bulky, but lacks speed and lacks immediate damage. That's where Chien-Pao comes in. My Chien-Pao, called Meowth, gives my team the much needed speed and burst damage that it needs. I chose to run a set of Throat Chop, Sacred Sword, Protect, and Ice Spinner. I'm not a huge fan of Sucker Punch. I don't like it having been my only dark move, and I definitely thought this team needed some fighting coverage, hence Sacred Sword. The Pokemon players amongst you might be a little bit confused by my choice of Ice Spinner. A lot of Chien-Pao run Icicle Crash, it's slightly stronger and has a chance to flinch, but it's also inaccurate, which I can't stand. Plus, Ice Spinner can remove terrain. Once again, you may be confused because, well, you have terrain on your own team. Why do you want to turn off your Grassy Terrain? Which, let's be honest, Grassy Terrain is not integral to my team. However, getting rid of the priority stopping Psychic Terrain is going to be very vital for me. So I decided to have Ice Spinner to give me an extra option if Rillaboom can't be used at that moment. I've got one more slot left to fill this team, and I'm fed up of these meta mons. These are the Pokemon you see on every team, so fine, I'll do something different. I went with Iron Valiant. And look, whilst it looks really powerful and is definitely not my sort of vibe, I promise you it's not very popular. I'm much more of a wacky little guy type person rather than a knife-wielding futuristic maniac type of person. However, Iron Valiant has just what my team needs. One thing I've always struggled with when playing Regulation G is choice itemed Pokemon. Specifically Choice Specs and Choice Band. These are items that give big boosts to your attack at the cost of only being able to use one move. A lot of restricted Pokemon end up running them, and I've always found them to be frustrating and difficult. My team's really bulky and likes switching in and out, but with these Pokemon, they can be killing mine, even though I've invested so much in their defense in one hit, and I can't have that. So what can I do? After scouring the list of moves for possible options to try and combat this, I laid my eyes on something that is quite lesser chosen. Disable. Disable prevents a Pokemon from using the move it just did the turn before. Now what happens if you have a Pokemon that can only use one move thanks to its choice specs? And then it gets disabled. If you disable the move that a choice item mon chose, it's forced to struggle. doing big damage to herself, and basically being useless. I want to be able to protect against a Miraidon Volt Switch, and be able to disable it before it gets to move. Miraidon being a legendary is really fast, so there aren't many candidates I can choose. However, with a booster energy item, Iron Valiant gets a speed boost and is now faster than basically any Pokemon in the format. This means I can protect against any choice Mon, and then disable their move next turn, rendering them useless. To round out its moveset, I gave it the move Wide Guard to protect against spread moves from the likes of Calyrex Shadow and Calyrex Ice. I also gave it Spirit Break to do a bit of damage with a Fairy Stab type move, which also has the effect of lowering an opposing Pokemon's special attack. Very, very useful against all these dangerous special attackers. And finally, I decided to give it Protect. Whilst I do have a bit of practice with Weezing, I really don't have any experience with this team. But hey, it's my first tournament. Worst case scenario, I get to make some VGC players very annoyed. And that sounds like a good time to me. It's Friday. I arrive at the stunning venue, ignoring all of the bright, fast-paced flashing colours around me, and somehow even manage to resist the seduction of a Luigi Kazuya set on stream to make it to sit down for my first set of the tournament. The tournament starts with 4 rounds of Swiss, meaning I'm going to need to win at least 3 games to make it out of pools. My first opponent of the day is Smar, an amazing Smash Bros commentator and a very experienced VGC player. He even coached me back in my first VGC video that I did on this channel. So I knew he was going to be a tough first opponent. I look at his team sheet and I see Dondozo and Tatsugiri. Ignoring this wild Tatsu set, this matchup is pretty good for me. With Tatsugiri's ability Commander, it can combine with Dondozo, doubling all its stats, forming a duo more powerful than me and a couple of beers on a Thursday night. However, Weezing, ever the party pooper, prevents them combining. So I realise, as long as I can keep Weezing alive, their Dondozo-Tatsugiri pair should be useless. Should. Game 1 begins and I lead Chen Pao and Iron Valiant versus their Whimsicott and Goldengo. A strong lead from Smar, but I can hardly contain my excitement. Everything I said about why Chen Pao should be on this team is true. However, the real reason I gave it a lifetime contract in Team Dutiful was to pull off one of the most devious strategies in the game. Whimsicott is one of the most popular Pokemon when it comes to speed control. Having the move Tailwind, which doubles the speed of the whole team, combined with its ability Prankster, giving it priority to move before other Pokemon, it is incredibly difficult to combat. That is, unless you could turn off Prankster? Here's the strategy. Lead Chen Pao and Rillaboom. If Whimsicott runs Focus Sash, Fake Out and Ice Spinner will take it out before it sets Tailwind. However, if they are running the more popular item Covert Cloak, a Weezing switch-in will turn off Prankster and allow Chen Pao to move first, killing Whimsicott, and boom, no speed control. This gives you a near guaranteed way to prevent priority Tailwind from your opponent, instantly putting them on the back foot. Game 1 begins and I immediately pull off my nasty little plan. Weezing switches in for Iron Valiant and Chen Pao kills Whimsicott, while Goldengo terrestrializes to Steel and does big damage with Make It Rain, bringing my Chen Pao down to its Focus Sash. Dondozo comes in. Knowing that Smar will want to kill my Weezing, I choose to protect it, hoping to kill their Goldengo with Sacred Sword. Smar switches Goldengo out for Tatsugiri, as I take half of its health before Dondozo kills my Chen Pao. Immediately we're seeing the demonstration of how powerful Weezing can be on the field when against Dondozo and Tatsugiri. No combination means I can do some big damage and hopefully take it out later. I bring Incineroar in. This is a terrifying position for me. My only Pokemon left that can really do damage is Incineroar, and if I let Dondozo combine, I will surely lose this game. I tried to kill Tatsugiri with Fake Out and Sludge Bomb, but Smar reads this, swapping in Goldengo, taking a small amount of damage from Fake Out and none from the Sludge Bomb. Dondozo attacks my Weezing, but thanks to my Terra Water, I survive. Right now, I'm in a very dangerous position. I need to slow play. I select Parting Shot into Goldengo and protect my Weezing. Make It Rain takes Incineroar down to a third of its health as I switch out into Iron Valiant, while Dondozo attacks into my Protect. Weezing still on the field for yet another turn. I choose to Spirit Break into Goldengo to try and lower its special attack, and I Will-O-Wisp into Dondozo to try and cut its physical attack. Goldengo protects, but my Will-O-Wisp connects, allowing Weezing to once again live the order up on a sliver of health thinner than my patience for any format that allows Urshifu in it. The next turn unfortunately demonstrates my broken Pokemon Showdown brain. I lock in, switch in, and protect. But then, after taking a few seconds of waiting, I completely change my mind. Instead, I choose to attack with my Iron Valiant, understanding that Goldengo right now is the only real threat to my Weezing. I chip Goldengo for a bit more damage and drop its special attack as my Iron Valiant lives a Shadow Ball. Dondozo uses Earthquake, smartly knocking out his old Goldengo, allowing for a free switch into Tatsugiri. However, thanks to Weezing, Tatsugiri is once again screaming, let me in, whilst Dozo's mouth is firmly closed thanks to the stench of my Cherry Bomb. I notice that Smar's Tatsugiri doesn't have Protect, so I have a path to victory. Kill Tatsugiri with Spirit Break, leaving only his burnt Dondozo to fight back. This works. And as if to further demonstrate its should-be legendary status, Weezing survives another hit on possibly the smallest health bar I've ever seen. I know you haven't heard complaints before, I know it's more about how you use it than actually the size of the health bar, I get it, put that thing away. Now, all I have to do is chip down Dondozo with my 3 remaining Pokemon to win the game. God damn, yes, I am the best! What a way to win. I'm ready to shake hands and move to my next round. But, oh. These games are best of 3. I may have proven that I can take a game against one of the best players here, but I will need to win one more to show that I can really be a threat. Game 2 begins, and Smar has immediately adapted. He leads Chi-Yu and his legendary Miraidon against my Chien-Pao and Incineroar. I spot that his Chi-Yu is Terra Ghost, so I immediately go for a hard read, throat chopping it and then using Fake Out on Miraidon. Unfortunately, I tried to cook a little too hard. No Terra on Chi-Yu, and I eat a Heat Wave for my trouble, putting Chien-Pao down to its Focus Sash. Giving up my chance to Ice Spinner the Miraidon, which would have done big damage and removed Electric Terrain. Surprisingly though, something I have learned from turn 1 is that my Chien-Pao is faster than Miraidon, so my Ice Spinner will be able to come first, remove extra Electric Terrain, and do big damage on their Miraidon. However, thanks to a Terra Fairy on turn 2, it survives, and Dazzling Gleam kills my Chien-Pao, and Chi-Yu protects against my Parting Shot. I bring in Iron Valiant, expecting a switch on Miraidon. I choose to attack with Spirit Break instead of Disable, and choose to Flare Blitz their Chi-Yu. Smar does switch, but not how I was expecting. In an amazing play, he switches in both Tatsugiri and Dondozo, meaning my Spirit Break misses Tatsu, and my Flare Blitz does barely any damage to the now buffed Dondozo. And now, for the first time this set, Dondozo and Tatsugiri are combined at last. I am in trouble. I protect with Iron Valiant and try to Parting Shot with Incin. Before I can get this off though, Dondozo kills me, forcing my Weezing in. After a successful Will-O-Wisp and a lot of chip, I manage to kill the Dondozo, but the damage is done. My 2 support Pokemon can't defeat the rest of Smile's team, and I lose game 2. My first game loss. I start to think, well, I got lucky, my team's a bit of a gimmick, this is why he's an amazing player, he adapts. However, I take a deep breath and realise I have no time for this negativity. I've still got game 3 to turn things around. I know I need to rethink my strategy. Expecting a hard Dondozo and Tatsugiri lead, I choose to open with Chien-Pao and Weezing. But Smar keeps his lead the same, with Chi-Yu and Miraidon. Knowing that I need to keep Weezing alive, I switch in Incineroar. My Ice Spinner leaves Miraidon with only a third of its health after its Terastallization to Fairy, and I get to remove Electric Terrain, as Miraidon kills my Incineroar in 1 hit, even without Electric Terrain. Jesus. And Heat Wave from Chi-Yu once again brings my Chien-Pao down to Focus Sash. This does look like a bad spot, but with Miraidon on low health, I have the perfect play to make. For the first time this set, Calyrex Shadow enters the field. I lock in Sacred Sword into Chi-Yu and Terra Fairy Astral Barrage into both Pokemon. Without Terra, Sacred Sword is a guarantee to bring Chi-Yu down to its Focus Sash, allowing Calyrex Shadow to get the kill and a damage boost. However, Smar plays expertly. Knowing that Chi-Yu is doomed, he switches in Tatsugiri. This allows Dozo to come in for free after the Chi-Yu dies. and with no Weezing on the field, Dondozo and Tatsugiri combine again. I switch in Weezing for Chien-Pao, taking half of its health to an Earthquake. Let's just bear in mind here, Weezing surviving a 2x Dondozo Earthquake with nearly half of its health is incredible. I love you, Cherry Bomb. You're the best. Citrus Berry takes my Weezing back up to 2/3 health, guaranteeing that I can live at least one more. And now I see a path to victory. Will-O-Wisp will cut Dondozo's attack in half, allowing me to chip it down with Calyrex Shadow. However, I don't want to just get through Dondozo. I want to get through the entire team. Surely Smar will expect me to protect my Calyrex Shadow and will instead target down my Weezing. It's time to get risky. I lock in Will-O-Wisp on my Weezing and Nasty Plot on my Calyrex Shadow. If I get this read wrong or Will-O-Wisp misses, I will surely lose this game and the entire set. Nasty Plot comes out and Smar literally sits back in his chair, stunned by my quite ridiculous bold read. Order Up hits Weezing and I survive. My Will-O-Wisp comes out and connects. Seeing how little damage Dondozo does to my Calyrex Shadow, I take the opportunity to set up once again, doing another Nasty Plot and bringing in my Chien-Pao. I drain a kiss into Dondozo and heal myself back up to near full health. Miraidon comes back in. This is where the game will be decided. Can I live a no electric terrain electric drift? I protect my other Pokemon, and electric drift comes out. And I survive. Astral Barrage then wins me the game. And I win my round 1 against one of the best players at this entire tournament.
GG. Well played, man. Very well played.
No time to rest, however, as we are going straight into my next set. My next opponent has a Kyogre team. Weather can be a little bit tricky for my team. The only way I really have to prevent it is Weezing, but the problem is, if Weezing ever leaves the field or gets killed, if that weather Pokemon is still on the board, it will activate. This often means that I'm getting a pretty tough situation where Weezing is stuck on a field without much to do, but if I switch out, I'm going to be in an even worse spot. The game opens and I lead Chien-Pao and Rillaboom, hoping to pull off my classic Weezing strategy to kill their Tornadus. However, they lead Urshifu and Rillaboom. I switch Chien-Pao to Weezing and do strong damage to their Urshifu with my priority Grassy Glide, before they U-turn out and bring in their own Rillaboom. Expecting a fake out and Tailwind play, I hard switch into Calyrex Shadow, but instead they hit Bleak Wind on both of my Pokemon. Then U-turn into Calyrex Shadow, leaving it on very low health. As they U-turn out, my Will-O-Wisp attempt goes straight into their special attacking Kyogre. A wasted turn. After sending out an Astral Barrage and doing a bit of chip damage, my Calyrex Shadow lives an Origin Pulse on 1 health. Expecting a possible Protect, I decide to Terra Fairy and Draining Kiss into their Tornadus to heal up. Their Kyogre does indeed Protect, however, Tornadus lives and gets the Tailwind off. Now, Kyogre will definitely outspeed my Calyrex Shadow, killing it before it can move. I switch in Rillaboom for my Calyrex Shadow, which survives an Origin Pulse and a Bleak Wind, but gets a speed drop in the process. After this, they switch Kyogre out into Rillaboom and kill my Rillaboom with a Bleak Wind, forcing out my Chien-Pao. After a double Protect to avoid Fake Out, I try to kill their Tornadus, but Nez reads my play hard. They protect Torn and do big damage with U-turn, as the incoming Kyogre gets chipped by Sludge Bomb. My Ice Spinner successfully kills their Tornadus, but Weezing can't finish the job. Origin Pulse takes out both my Pokemon, setting up the rain and allowing Water Urshifu to kill my Calyrex Shadow with a priority Aqua Jet. And I lose Game 1. Game 2 begins and Nez leads Urshifu and Kyogre, an extremely scary lead with the rain boosting both their damages. I decide to lead Incineroar and Calyrex Shadow. In hindsight, I'm not exactly sure why I brought a fire type against this hard rain team, but let's see what happens. I try to immediately kill their Urshifu with Terra Fairy Draining Kiss, but they switch into Rillaboom as I fake out Kyogre's Protect. The combination of Grassy Glide and Origin Pulse is enough to kill my Calyrex Shadow, after I only get a little bit of damage of Astral Barrage. My parting shot arrives simply too late to the party, lowering Kyogre's special attack and allowing me to switch into Chien-Pao and then bring Incin back in. They switch Kyogre out as I kill their Rillaboom, leaving my Incineroar facing against their Tornadus and their Urshifu. I switch in Weezing for Incineroar and manage to kill their Tornadus, leaving Nez down to just their final 2 Pokemon. Unfortunately, they're 2 of the strongest, Kyogre and Urshifu. Terra Water Rain boosted Surging Strikes is simply too much for my Weezing to handle. Incineroar comes in and I fake out the Urshifu and throw chop the Kyogre. But it lives, and Orange Impulse once again doesn't miss and takes out both my Pokemon. I immediately lose my second set 2-0. Both games were so close, but just a couple good decisions by my opponent pushed them through the line. But I've got to brush it off. I've got 2 more rounds of Swiss left to go, and I have to win both of them if I want a chance to make it through to Top Cut. I have to bounce back, and bounce back I did. The next round was my fastest of the entire tournament. Game 1 begins, and I immediately kill their Tornadus with Ice Spinner and fake out into their Chien-Pao. The next turn, my Sacred Sword immediately takes out their Chien-Pao, and my Calyrex Shadow eats the Surging Strikes. They bring in their legendary Miraidon. I switch in Rillaboom to replace their electric terrain with my grassy terrain, and Rillaboom eats an Aqua Jet for breakfast. And Chien-Pao kills their Miraidon in one single hit, leaving only their Urshifu left, which I kill next turn. For game 2, I noticed my opponent would often let me make quite obvious plays without punishing me. So, for once in my life, I decided to keep things simple. I start with the same lead of Rillaboom and Chien-Pao, but my opponent mixes things up, leading with Urshifu and Tailwind Volcarona. I Terrastallize to fire on my Rillaboom and kill Urshifu in one hit with Wood Hammer, and the Volcarona fiery dances into my Chien-Pao's Protect. Next turn, they bring in their Chien-Pao, which I try to kill with a combo of U-Turn and Throw Chop to cover the Terra Ghost. But their Volcarona Rage Powders, taking both attacks as my Rillaboom takes an Icicle Crash, swapping out for my Calyrex Shadow. All I need to do is kill this Sucker Punch Chien-Pao, and I will surely win the game. I protect Calyrex Shadow and kill Chien-Pao with my Chien-Pao's Sacred Sword, and I survive a Fiery Dance. At this point, even with their Landorus, there's nothing my opponent can do, and I win the set 2-0 without losing a single Pokemon in either games. I am back. Time for my round 4 of 4. If I want a chance of making it out of pools, I need to win this. And it's not going to be easy. My opponent is running a super scary strategy. Instruct Oranguru. Oranguru is a bulky Trick Room setter with the move that makes their partners move again. It doesn't sound too strong, but the strat is very simple. Set up Trick Room to reverse the speed order, use a slow Pokemon who hits really hard, and then use Instruct to do it all over again. Well, that's easy to solve, I hear you say. Just stop Trick Room going up. That's where Indeedee comes in. Not only does it have Trick Room itself, it also sets up the Psychic terrain, which prevents priority moves such as Fake Out. And this is the situation I'm immediately facing, as they lead Indeedee and Oranguru against my Incineroar and Calyrex Shadow. But I have a plan. Kind of. I switch in Rillaboom to replace Psychic terrain with my Grassy terrain, but instead of faking out, I go for a knockoff, which their Indeedee barely survives as their Monkey Trick Rooms. This is unfortunately exactly what they wanted. Next turn, I kill their Indeedee and U-turn Rillaboom into Weezing, as they bring Calyrex Ice onto the field. Now, I have to face the power of their gimmick. Glacial Lance does half of Weezing's damage, and then Oranguru's Instruct does the other half, killing my Cherry Bomb before I can get a chance to Will-O-Wisp. However, thanks to resisting Ice, my Incineroar lives, killing their Oranguru. I have Calyrex Shadow in the back, but I need to stall out Trick Room before it can shine. I bring in Rillaboom, Terrastalizing to fire, making me immune to their Incineroar's Will-O-Wisp as I fake out the Calyrex Ice and do big damage with my Incineroar's Flaredlets. Next turn, their Calyrex Terrastalizes to Grass, killing my Incineroar with high horsepower, as their Incin chips Rillaboom with knockoff. My U-turn does solid damage to their weak to bug Calyrex, giving me a free switch into Calyrex Shadow and allowing me to reset up Grassy terrain when Rillaboom comes back in. I'm now in a scary spot. I've used my Terra on Rillaboom, and their Incineroar has a Dark type move in knockoff. With my quad weakness, this will undoubtedly kill me in one hit. Knowing this, I fake out the Incineroar and Astral Barrage as their Calyrex Ice protects. Their Incineroar is still alive. Astral Barrage is still my best damaging option, so to win this game, I need my Rillaboom to be faster than their Incineroar and to kill it with a resisted Wood Hammer. And it does. Their Calyrex sets up Trick Room, but it's too little, too late, and I win game 1. Last game, my opponent led with 2 Psychic types, so this game I decided to play aggressive, leading with my 2 Dark types, Incineroar and Chien-Pao, against, once again, their Indeedee and Oranguru. Their Indeedee, once again, uses Follow Me, as it takes an Ice Spinner which turns off Psychic Terrain. This triggers its Eject button as it switches out into Calyrex Ice. This allows me to knock off my intended target, Oranguru, killing it in 1 hit, preventing Trick Room. My opponent brings in a Moongus, a very scary Pokemon when Trick Room is active, as it can sleep my Pokemon, stopping them from acting. I decide to double it down, killing it with an Ice Spinner and a Flare Blitz, as my opponent does get Trick Room up and brings Indeedee back in, setting up Psychic Terrain. I, ever the hater of the colour purple, want the battlefield to be green. I then switch in Rillaboom, only for it to die in 1 hit to a Glacial Lance. Ouch. My Incineroar, however, ever the MVP in this matchup, knocks off Calyrex Ice's item, doing big damage. I then bring in my Calyrex with 3 turns of Trick Room left. In a bit of a misplay, I protect my Calyrex Shadow, letting Incineroar get killed by their Calyrex Ice, getting another damage boost. I bring in Chien-Pao. With only 1 turn of Trick Room left, my opponent is expecting me to play defensive, so they try and double up my Chien-Pao. However, I, ever the risk taker, know that this is going to be the case. I go for a read, choose not to protect my Calyrex Shadow, and go for Astral Barrage. It kills their Calyrex Ice and leaves just my Calyrex Shadow against their Indeedee, putting me in the position to win the game. Boom! I've made it into top cut at my first ever VGC tournament. I am simply too good. I have a couple hours now to grab some food and relax before I have to come back to the venue for top cut. Welcome to the Tabayaki interlude. If you don't care about Tabayaki, skip this part. At DBZ, I came third in 51 worldwide games without knowing what game it was. I won 2 best of 7 games of Tabayaki, a totally not luck, skill-based game. My friend Tom wanted to run it back during top 8 of Smash Tournament. I won 4-1. I think I might be the best. In fact, I think they should start calling me Mr. Wins Games. Ha ha ha, back to Pokemon.
The 1 element of skill in this game. Number 4! Yes! I fucking did it!
I'm back in the building for Top Cut. I don't know how many players are still in the tournament or what round it is really. All I know that from this point on, it is single elimination. Lose 1 best of 3 set, you're out. There is exactly 0 room for error. I sit down for my round 1 game of Top Cut. It's against the highest performing player of Pool B. In fact, they haven't even lost a single set yet. This is going to be really difficult. We sit down to play, I look at their team sheet, and it's a scary one. Zamazenta, one of the surprise meta threats of this generation. With its boosted defense, it can be very difficult to kill. Also on their team, a slightly stranger pick, Latios, with its high damaging signature move Luster Purge and Tailwind for speed control. Game 1 begins and I try to lead Weezing and Chien-Pao versus their Landorus and Latios. At this point, I threaten big damage on both of their mons with my Ice Spinner, so I expect a defensive play. I switch Weezing out for Incineroar and do solid damage to Latios as it terrestrializes to Steel and Landorus protects. Latios tries to use a Psychic move into my Incineroar, taking no damage. Knowing that Latios doesn't have Protect, I see an opportunity for a safe kill attempt. I choose Sacred Sword into Latios and fake out the Landorus slot. Zamazenta switches in, and thanks to a skillfully placed critical hit, I do huge damage, whilst their Landorus can't move at all. Knowing I can finish off this legendary before it even gets to play, I launch another Sacred Sword into it, taking it out. Their Landorus uses Substitute, but my Parting Shot drops its special attack and allows me to bring Weezing back in, as they bring in their Chien-Pao. I break Landorus' sub with my Ice Spinner as it attacks back with Earth Power, doing less than half of Chien-Pao's health thanks to the Parting Shot and Weezing turning off their boost from sheer force. Just as I do in Smash, after losing on PS2 for the 50th time in a row, I decide to run it back, making the exact same play of Ice Spinner and Will-O-Wisp. Landorus protects my Ice Spinner, and their Chien-Pao launches an Ice School Crash into my Weezing, flinching it. Surely, now after making the same play twice in a row, I will mix it up. What's that definition of insanity again? Isn't it something like misattributing a quote to Albert Einstein? I don't know. So, I refuse to learn from my past mistakes. I am always right, and this turn proves it. I once again lock in Ice Spinner and Will-O-Wisp. My Chen-Pao kills their Landorus, and my Weezing doesn't get flinched, burning the opposing Chen-Pao. Never doubt me again. I can see that you are doing it through the screen. I know more than you, and I'm always right. Latios comes in on their side. Yes, that's right. Another chance for me to use Ice Spinner. Actually, no. This time, I'm gonna Sacred Sword. You don't know me. Don't even try to read what's going up in this sick and twisted mind. Thanks to the burn damaging Chen-Pao, its Focus Sash doesn't proc, and I kill it in one hit with Sacred Sword, as their double up with both Mons kills my Chen-Pao. With only one Pokemon left on their side, and 3 on my side, my opponent can't keep up, and I win Game 1. After Game 1, I'm feeling confident. I won that game with 3 Pokemon left, truly showing that I can fight with the best players here. But I have to keep in mind that critical hit in the beginning definitely played a big role in that game, so I can't get ahead of myself. Game 2 begins, and my opponent mixes things up. They lead Entei and Zamazenta versus my Chen-Pao and Incineroar. I see Choice Band on their Entei, and I predict my opponents will Terra Normal Extreme Speed to try and kill me before I get to move. I choose not to fake out with Incin and launch a Sacred Sword into their Entei. But my opponent, not playing as much of a crackhead as I am, makes a very calm, reasonable play. No Terastallization on Entei means little damage from Sacred Sword. The Zamazenta kills my Incineroar with a single body press, as Entei launches a Scorching Fire into Chen-Pao, bringing it down to its Focus Sash. But, thanks to Scorching Fire getting the chance to burn my Chen-Pao, it loses 1 health at the end of the turn, and I've lost 2 of my Pokemon before the game's even really gotten going. This is where I learn a lesson. I was feeling myself a little bit too hard, I made a hard read, and I got punished for it. My opponent rides this momentum all the way, taking Game 2 confidently. It's time for Game 3. If I lose this, I'm out of the tournament instantly. Everything is on the line. Expecting the same lead from my opponent, I choose to begin with Incineroar and Weezing, knowing I need to prioritize Will-O-Wisp to slow down their powerful physical attackers. As I expected, their lead is once again Zamazenta and Entei. In a bold turn 1 play, I Terastallize my Incineroar to Fairy, faking out Entei as their Zamazenta body presses into Incin, doing very little damage. My Will-O-Wisp connects, cutting Zamazenta's damage output in half. I know if I'm going to be able to get Calyrex Shadow in the position to win this game, I need to slow both of their Pokemon to a Wo-Chen pace. Sorry, Wo-Chen. I protect Weezing and Parting Shot into Entei, lowering its attack, letting me bring Calyrex Shadow in safely. I'm still not feeling confident enough yet to go for the game. My slow play continues. I switch out Weezing for Incineroar and protect Calyrex Shadow, as they bring in Chen-Pao and attack into my Protect. Unfortunately, my hand may have been covering the recording for the next couple turns, but to summarise, I killed their Chen-Pao with my own, as their Zamazenta killed my Chen-Pao. Incineroar and Weezing are facing off against their Landorus and Zamazenta. I fake out into Landorus as Zamazenta kills my Incineroar, leaving just my Calyrex Shadow and Weezing left against 3 of their Pokemon. Their Landorus, Zamazenta, and a third one that I don't even know about yet. I decide to go for a risk. I decide to ignore their Wide Guard and use Astral Barrage and Sludge Bomb into their Landorus. Thankfully, my risk pays off. I get big damage to both their Pokemon with Astral Barrage, taking only a chip from my opponent's Heavy Slam, as Landorus kills my Weezing. Calyrex Shadow is my last Pokemon left. Both of their Mons have very little health, and I want to take them out in 1 turn. The only way to do that is with Astral Barrage. However, with my opponent's Wide Guard, they can completely block my 2 opponent targeting move and let their Landorus kill me. I have a single target move for a reason, and I need to use it. But I don't. I see both my opponent's Pokemon have Protect, and I know under this much pressure, they will click it on one of them. I ignore the smart play and go with my gut. I click Astral Barrage, and I'm right. Landorus protects, and Zamazenta dies to Astral Barrage. My opponent then brings in their last Pokemon, Entei. I need to kill both of them in 1 hit. My opponent's already used their Terra, so can't make Entei immune to Astral Barrage with Terra Normal. And, thankfully, since I haven't terrestrialized, I'm immune to their extreme speed. I only have one play to make. Click and pray. Astral Barrage comes out and kills both their Pokemon, winning me game 3 and the set. I'm still in this, baby. 2 rounds in a row, and I'm still winning. I don't even have time to consider my situation or to celebrate, as I'm immediately put back in to my next game in bracket. I sit down for my next set, and I'm facing against Bonnie, one of the best players in Scotland, sitting down with a terrifying team. Screens Grimmsnarl, Skill Swap Cresselia, and Kyogre. Not that it's a weird choice, but it's the only legendary I've lost to today, so I'm feeling nervous. Adding to this, there's really intimidating mons, like a Choice Scarf Landorus, a Chi-Yu, and a Wo-Chien. Well, I don't think Wo-Chien's very scary. Game 1 begins, and I lead Rillaboom and Chien-Pao versus their Landorus and Grimmsnarl. Their Landorus switches out, as I switch Weezing in for Rillaboom, doing a chunk of damage to their Grimmsnarl as they set up Reflect. With Prankster turned off, I reckon my Weezing's probably faster here, so I try to taunt Grimmsnarl. My Sacred Sword does big damage to Chi-Yu. However, their Dark Pulse gets a flinch on my Weezing, allowing them to do over half of Chien-Pao's health with Foul Play. They switch in Landorus and attack into my Chien-Pao's Protect, as I just barely don't kill their Grimmsnarl with Weezing Sludge Bomb. I have a chance to pretty much end this game right here, right now. I select Sludge Bomb and Ice Spinner as their Landorus goes for the 85% accurate Sandsear Storm. It misses my Weezing, but takes out my Chien-Pao, killing it. However, thanks to this lucky miss, I'm able to take out their Grimmsnarl. I bring in my Rillaboom as they bring in Chi-Yu. They overheat into my Weezing and my Rillaboom does a chip of damage to Chi-Yu. Their Kyogre is now on the field, and I'm scared. Overheat kills my Weezing. I terrestrialize to fire on Rillaboom to survive their Ice Beam, but thanks to their Kyogre's Terra Grass, they take barely any damage from Wood Hammer. Calyrex Shadow enters the field, and I get a read right. Their Chi-Yu protects as I double into their Kyogre, with Astral Barrage and U-Turn. But with so much bulk on Kyogre, it somehow hangs on, hitting back with a powerful Origin Pulse, killing Rillaboom and bringing Calyrex Shadow to very low health. My Astral Barrage fails to kill both Pokemon thanks to their Light Screen, and I lose game 1. This could be it. My bracket run is on the line. Once again, I have no room for error. For me to proceed, I need to win these next 2 games, or I'm out of the tournament. The 2 mons that gave me the most trouble game 1 were Choice Scarf Landorus and Spread Move using Kyogre. It's time to do something I've barely done throughout this entire tournament. Let Iron Valiant shine. I lead Valiant and Calyrex Shadow versus their Landorus and Kyogre. Knowing the power of Speed Boosted Valiant, I decide to double protect. My opponent, expecting a wide guard, doubles up into Calyrex Shadow with U-Turn and Thunder. After just turn 1, I see a path to victory. I select Disable into Landorus and go for a Terra Fairy Nasty Plot on Calyrex Shadow. If this Landorus outspeeds me, I will lose my Legendary and most likely the whole tournament. My opponent selects her moves and Valiant is faster, getting the Disable off onto Landorus as my Calyrex Shadow survives an Origin Pulse. In true Valiant fashion, my Paradox Pokemon dies in the process, but it's done its job. I bring in Rillaboom, giving a free Fake Out and Draining Kiss, doing surprisingly little damage to their Assault Vest Kyogre in the process, as their Grimmsnarl replaces the now useless Landorus. Once again, I choose to slow play, protecting my Calyrex Shadow as Rillaboom does a solid chunk to Kyogre with U-Turn, bringing Chien-Pao in. This turn, I go for the kill. Grimmsnarl's Thunder Wave connects on Calyrex Shadow, but my Chien-Pao does the job, killing Kyogre. Landorus is back on the field, but with their Choice Scarf and my Focus Sash still active, I have a guaranteed kill with Ice Spinner. Their Sandsear Storm misses Calyrex Shadow, and my Chien-Pao survives even without Focus Sash, and I kill the Landorus with one double super effective hit. But their Grimm does manage to kill my Chien-Pao with Foul Play. My opponent is now left with Chi-Yu and Grimmsnarl versus my Calyrex Shadow and Rillaboom. Wanting to avoid big damage from Foul Play, I launch a Grassy Glide into Grimmsnarl, getting the kill with a critical hit. Did it matter, I hear you say? Well, that depends. If you mean in terms of damage, no, it was a guaranteed kill no matter what, even with Reflect active. But, in terms of the mental battle over this set, oh baby it did. My Calyrex and Rillaboom are too much for Chi-Yu to handle on its own, and I win Game 2. Going into Game 3, I am now more nervous than I have ever been this entire day. You can literally see how much my finger is shaking. I am stressed, excited, and nervous. But once again, I have to focus. I can't get ahead of myself. I need to win this Game 3. Expecting a switch up from my opponent, I decide to lead Calyrex Shadow and Rillaboom instead, leaving Iron Valiant and Shen Pao in the back. However, my opponent still leads with their Grimmsnarl and Landorus. My opponent currently puts out a lot of offensive pressure on my legendary Calyrex. The Dark-type Foul Play would likely kill me in one hit, but if I Terra Fairy to resist that, I could be killed by Sludge Bomb on their Landorus. However, I know that every other loser Calyrex Shadow player is terrified of Dark-type moves, and my opponent is a smart one. Not only do I not Terrastalize, risking the Foul Play, I go for a nasty plot to double my special attack, and I choose to fake out their Landorus, as they choose not to attack with Grimmsnarl, setting up a light screen. Knowing my opponent will target the buffed Calyrex Shadow, I protect, and U-turn to bring Iron Valiant onto the field to once again threaten Disable. At this point, my opponent threatens no damage, so I decide to show off just how greedy of a little guy I can be. I nasty plot again, getting me up to 3 times damage. Their Landorus switches into Cresselia, meaning my Disable fails. Grimmsnarl goes for a Thunder Wave, but I get lucky, and it misses. This is the first time that Cresselia has been on the field, and I don't really know what it does. I look at the team sheet again and see Skill Swap. I can't risk losing Calyrex Shadow's ability as one, as it could lead to Cresselia being a real threat. I make a simple play. Rillaboom comes in, and I launch Astral Barrage. Cresselia Terrastalizes to Dark, resisting the damage, as both mons only take roughly a third thanks to their light screen. Cresselia sets up Trick Room, reversing the speed order, meaning my Calyrex is almost definitely going to be moving last. However, thanks to the team sheet, I see again that Cresselia doesn't have Protect. I launch Fake Out and Draining Kiss, killing Cresselia in one turn, as their Grimmsnarl does just under half Rillaboom's health with Foul Play. Kyogre enters the field. I want Fake Out to give me a safe attack, so I protect Calyrex and U-turn into Kyogre. Unfortunately, the double up of Foul Play and Origin Pulse takes it out. Iron Valiant is back on the field, and I go for a Wide Guard to cover against Origin Pulse, but my opponent reads this, doubling my Calyrex with Foul Play and Thunder. But it's not enough. Thanks to my bulky Calyrex set, I live with still half of my health intact, hitting back with big damage from Astral Barrage. Knowing that my opponent won't risk an Origin Pulse now, I select Spirit Break. They make the same play, but my Calyrex survives with a sliver of health as I take out Grimmsnarl and Kyogre. This leaves just their Landorus left. I protect and Spirit Break as they go for Sandsear Storm that my Iron Valiant lives, guaranteeing me the win with Wide Guard and Astral Barrage. And I've won the set. After a tough Game 1 loss, I adapted. I mixed up my gameplay and took bold risks that paid off. I'm on top of the world. Nothing can stop me now. For the first time today, I have time to breathe as another set is still going on. I check bracket. Does this mean I'm in the quarters? Maybe even the semis at this point? I mean, I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I never thought I'd get this far anyway, so I don't really know what to expect. Wait, what? I'm in Grand Finals? That's right. This entire time, Top Cut was top 8. And I won the quarters, I won the semis, and now I'm in Grands. This is the furthest I've made in any video game competition, let alone my first Pokemon tournament. And I start to think, can I really win this whole thing? The other semi-final ends, and my opponent is decided. Kelly Hammer, an experienced VGC player who's been burning through the competition with their unorthodox mix of mons. But hey, their team can't outweird mine. I have a Weezing, for God's sakes. I sit down and look at the team sheet. Groudon, okay, interesting. I haven't seen that one today. Gravity Farigiraf? That's a bit odd, but I can see the vision. Alright. Jumpluff! This team is so original and so terrifying. When the sun is up, Jumpluff gets double speed thanks to its Chlorophyll ability and can sleep my whole team with Sleep Powder. And with Gravity Farigiraf, it can boost the accuracy of Precipice Edge from Groudon, making this overpowered move a guaranteed hit. I'm overwhelmed. There's a crowd starting to form. The Irish players are chanting Hammer's name, and it's all getting a little bit too much. Can I lock in and secure this grand? Well, no. They lead Farigiraf and Groudon. Knowing that I threaten a Will-O-Wisp on Groudon, I expect a Terra Fire and Trick Room from Farigiraf. So, I decide to make a read. I try to taunt the Farigiraf and switch into Calyrex to give me a chance to set up. However, they call this move perfectly, switching Farigiraf into their Assault Vest Incin and launching a Precipice Blade, hitting both my mons, doing huge damage. Fearing my opponent's spread moves, I switch Weezing into Iron Valiant and protect my Calyrex. They bring Farigiraf back in for Incineroar, and... wait, Nasty Plot? Hammer looks at me confused as I look dumbfounded. I misclicked. A disastrous mistake at this point in the game. Hammer kills my Calyrex and does big damage to my Iron Valiant with Precipice Blade. I've lost my Legendary and my Terastallization. I'm so far behind that I can't recover, and I lose game 1. I desperately rack my brain for how can I adapt, but I don't see any obvious changes. I decide to lead Calyrex and Iron Valiant, as my opponent sticks with the same Farigiraf and Groudon. I have a plan. I can double protect on this turn. If my opponent predicts Wide Guard and uses their Heat Crash, I can disable it next turn, giving me a path to set up Nasty Plot and sweep the game. I double protect, and I'm right, they Heat Crash. I'm ready to go full 18, light a cigar, and to proclaim that I love it when a plan comes together. Ooh. But in my tunnel vision, I forgot something. Farigiraf Trick Rooms, meaning Groudon will now go before my Iron Valiant, making Disable useless. I can still get out of this. I debate whether to Terastallize to Fairy. I click it multiple times and deselect it. Select and deselect. Select and deselect. I decide to Terra Fairy and Draining Kiss into Farigiraf. A smart play to stay alive. But I change my mind. I know I'm behind in this game and I need a big play to get back into it. I Nasty Plot and Wide Guard. This was a huge mistake. Hammer doesn't overthink it, doesn't try and play my weird wacky games, and takes full advantage of my bad decision, killing my Calyrex with Heat Crash and Foul Play. Once again, without my Legendary, I just can't do enough damage. I chip away as much as I can, but it doesn't help. I lose Grand Finals 2-0.
Let's go, Canada!
This was a rough game. I let the pressure of Grands get to me. I played too risky and wasn't focused enough. But honestly, Hammer played amazingly. He made incredible callouts, not overthinking as much as I was, with a really creative team. It was simply too much for me to handle. I did pretty bloody well in this tournament, often by thinking one step ahead of my opponents, and making risky, unexpected plays to try and throw them off. But Hammer simply refused to play my mind games and just killed me Indiana Jones and the Dancing Sword Man style. Afterwards, we GG'd, shook hands, and got a photo. And honestly, I had to give it up. I simply stood no chance against the glorious nation of Ireland. And that is how I got second at my first ever Pokemon tournament. This video has been a bit of a challenge. It's quite long. It's my first one of this type, so if you enjoy it, please let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, etc, etc. It was really, really fun to make. I was not expecting to do this well at this tournament. This was meant to be a little side bit in a vlog, but hey, I'm just too good. The rest of the tournament was also really fun. I mentioned Tabayaki. I drank a lot at the bar. I got to play a few games with my Joseph Stalin amiibo that you can see on screen here. Shoutouts to Chojo, you're a legend. And overall, it was just a great time. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. This was a lot of work. I really appreciate you guys watching and enjoying. If you want more Pokemon content from me, please let me know. I love making it, and I'm going to be the best VGC player the world's ever seen. Thank you very much, everyone. See you around. Lovely stuff. An hour. Fucking hell.